Hey guys, Julie Barrett with Conservative Ladies of Washington, back again with another bill of the day. Today we are talking about Senate Bill 5462, which is relating to promoting inclusive learning standards and instructional materials in public schools. This bill is all about diversity, equity, and inclusion, critical race theory, bringing in the LGBTQ propaganda, indoctrination into our public schools. This would actually, obviously, it's already there. If you have kids in public schools, or if you know anything about what's going on in public schools, you know it's already there. This would further mandate and require that the OSPI, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, would include this kind of curricula in their materials that they are asking school districts around the states to abide by. So I'm going to read to you a little section from the bill. The legislature intends to expand these requirements by requiring school districts to adopt policies and procedures that incorporate adaptive, inclusive curricula and selecting inclusive instructional materials that include the histories, contributions, and perspectives of historically marginalized and underrepresented groups. The legislature recognizes that inclusive curricula have been shown to often improve the mental health, academic performance, attendance rates, and graduation rates of marginalized communities. So I'm going to stop right there and just kind of reflect back on that last sentence there. We are in a youth mental health crisis. Our youth are really struggling right now, and there is no denying the connection to the mental health crisis and this indoctrination of our students. So this is a flat out lie right there. They have dumbed down everything in the schools, so kids cannot not graduate. And we know that in our state, we've got 73% of students can't even pass the math test, and over 50% can't pass the English test. So this has already been debunked in just the last couple of years. So it's already garbage right there. The bill goes on to make a list of groups that they want included in this curriculum. And so they want these groups to include, but are not limited to, Native Americans and Native American tribes. Last I checked, those were all included in the school history. At least it was back in the day when I was in school. People from various racial and ethnic backgrounds, including but not limited to African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islander Americans. I think those people are already being included. Women, they're included. People from various socioeconomic statuses. Here's where it's getting interesting. People from various religious backgrounds, but do they want Christians? Immigrants and refugees, people with disabilities, people who are neurodiverse, people who are English learners or use sign language, and LGBTQ people as defined in the RCW, and it goes on to list the RCW. And they want all of this in place by October 1 of 2025. Now today, in committee hearing and public testimony, we had Jeannie Magdua, who is one of our legislative action team leaders, testifying on this bill. And here's what she had to say.
Thank you, committee members, for the opportunity to testify today in opposition to Senate Bill 5462. My name is Jeannie Magdua. I'm a founding member of the Conservative Ladies of Washington, living in the 44th District. I'm also an immigrant from the Philippines, having come to the U.S. when my mother married a U.S. Navy man and moved us to his home state of North Dakota. Regardless of the bigotry we did experience in these rural communities, we do not view ourselves as marginalized or oppressed. Not in America. Oppression would have been our experience had we stayed in the Philippines. We left the Midwest and moved to Seattle during the busing era, a failed racial equity attempt, which was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 2007. Senate Bill 5462 seeks to implement another racial equity experiment by forcing diversity, equity, and inclusion into the public school curricula. These are elements of critical race theory, which is a framework that ascribes guilt and innocence, responsibility, and victimhood to groups based on their race or sexual identity. This causes division, including jockeying for recognition on their marginalization status, like the fact that there is no requirement for consulting women's groups as there is for LGBT group.
Thank
We should
you.
not. Okay, thank you.
Jeannie does such a fabulous job of attacking this particular agenda and this whole narrative, and especially as an immigrant and as someone who has a master's degree in Asian studies. She really can talk to the issues that they say that they care about. And of course, we are against all of this diversity, equity, and inclusion because it is not actually about creating an inclusive environment. It's teaching kids that their value and their worth come from the color of their skin, comes from their background, comes from a number of factors that are completely out of their control. But this is part of the agenda of the left. If they can create chaos and confusion in these kids' identities, then they can control the society. And so that's exactly what they are working to do. And that's why we so vehemently oppose this bill and anything like it. One additional note I want to tell you guys about is that this bill started out, there were two separate bills. There was this bill, 5462, and Senate Bill 5441. It was a youth advisory group, and it was created, that particular bill, 5441, was drafted by some students along with some Democratic legislators. And we opposed that one. That one was a pretty bad critical race theory bill, and they've actually included the elements of 5441 into 5462. So this is a double whammy. And if you did not get a chance to sign in con, I'm going to have links in the description below so that you can submit a written testimony on this bill. It will go to executive session where the legislators will debate it after the public testimony that was heard today. So we really need you to speak out on this and to let your legislators, to let the members of the House Education Committee know that you oppose this being taught in public schools. We say no to indoctrination, stop indoctrinating our children, and educate them instead. So please take action. You'll find that below. Also want to encourage you to join us, become a member. We are stronger in numbers. We are doing a lot of work in this legislative session. That work will continue when the session ends in just raising public awareness and getting the messaging out so that we can stop these bad bills and turn things around in Washington State. I have all of the member links below. But you can go to conservativeladiesofwa.com, and we actually opened our membership up to men this year. And in the last 2 weeks, we have had more men join us as new members than we have women. So the guys are ahead for 2 weeks in a row now, and it's pretty cool. We meet every Monday night on Zoom to strategize and talk about what's going on. And we have a whole team of people that are working to get all this information, do all the research, and do testimony so that we can support the good bills, which are few and far between, and oppose the bad ones. And like I always say, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We have a long way to go. We're not going to turn around with one bill, one hearing, one session, one election cycle. This is going to take probably longer than a decade, and we need to be committed to staying the course and staying through it in the long term and being in it for the marathon. And I know it gets exhausting, but I'm just asking you, if you believe in Washington State and you want to save it for the future of our children and your grandchildren, and we've got to be in this fight if we're going to have anything left in Washington that is worth saving. So join us in the fight. If you don't want to become a member, that's cool. If you want to make a donation, we would certainly appreciate that. We are doing a ton of work, and we appreciate your support. We appreciate everyone that is, all of our members, of course, and everyone that has made a donation. Thank you so much. It makes a huge difference. So please share this video with your networks and your friends. And I will be back again this week with another bill of the day, probably a few more this week. We've got some doozies going on. So please share this. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. And please let your friends know we need everybody on deck for this. So I'll see you again next time. Don't forget to visit our website, conservativeladiesofwa.com.